Well, Monday is technically the first day of spring for 2023. Not feeling like that in many areas of the U.S., though. As we kicked off the week, let's dive in and take a look at the weather forecast here for the week ahead. Eric Snodgrass with Nutrien joins us. And Eric, I was joking with you before we jumped on the air. Someone's got to shut the freezer door. Plenty of cold air for many parts of the U.S. that don't typically see it this time of year.
Yeah, the good thing though is that you're right. Today's first day of meteorological spring, or of astronomical spring, excuse me. Meteorological spring actually begins on March 1st. But good news is tomorrow there's actually more daylight than there is darkness. So we're making progress here. But unfortunately, we've just got a lot of cold air displaced over North America. So if you look in Europe, you look throughout Russia, China, there's no cold air there. It's quite mild for all of them. It's all been just like pushed over on the other side of the planet, and it's anchored throughout the Canadian Prairie, the Western United States, upper Midwest, and the Northern Plains. And so what happened this past weekend was some of that cold air has made it all the way down to the Gulf Coast. We had a freeze that made it all the way to the Gulf Coast last night. In fact, I was just working on some new maps that show how many hours were spent below freezing, below certain thresholds, because there's some winter wheat crop that's in the eastern corn belt. Okay, winter wheat crop that's in like Ohio and Kentucky and Indiana and southern Illinois that may have had some damage from the frost events we saw this weekend, where the temperatures just got really cold. And unfortunately, there's no massive breakaway to warm conditions by the time we finish March for the northern part of the U.S. and the western part of the U.S. If you're east, you're going to be happier. There will be some mild air coming. In fact, shoot, by this Thursday, where you and I are, we might see temperatures in the 60. You may crack 70, but it's brief. It's not this sustained warm up that cranks the soil temperatures up where everybody just goes like mad. But it's a reminder that it is just the first day of spring. But here's something kind of fun to think about with it. The sun this morning rose on the North Pole. It will not set on the North Pole till September 21st. So constant sunshine for 6 months is kind of a fun thing to remember about the equinox.
That is a fun thing to remember for sure. Well, and you mentioned, not necessarily warming up the soil temps. And I know across the northern and western US, we have plenty of snowpack. So thinking about the rest of March into April, what's the outlook for spring planting? How soon can we start thinking about getting into fields here across some of those areas?
Yeah, there's 2 to 10 inches of liquid in the snow that's in the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. A lot of that's on the headwaters of the Mississippi River and all of its tributaries. So let's just say, even if it got warm, like right now, just warmed up, we'd still be waiting 30 days before all the muck was gone and all the water was out before we could get in. And it's not even doing that, which is unfortunate for that particular area. Then what we see is that later on this week, there's a stationary front that sets up from Oklahoma to Ohio. Very wet weather across that area, cutting right across, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, Iowa, Ohio, excuse me. And we're going to be looking at 2 to 4 inches of rain in some of those places. So our spring flood threat's going to go up. Then there's the risk of some strong storms in the Midwest, and then down in the Red River Valley of the South and down over the lower Mississippi Valley. And don't forget, we have another big winter storm coming into California tomorrow. That one might put 3 feet of snow in the Sierra Nevada, where there's already 30 feet of snow and 100 inches of liquid in that snow, which means the flooding threat for California is going to continue. I'll be honest with you, it gets kind of exhausting writing reports and talking about it, because I can't find a spot where there's just like, hey, everybody here is happy, because there's drought in the plains still. We have drought in the southern United States. We've got snow that just went through the New England area. They're going to get maybe some more or some rain on top of that. And about the only thing I can say is, typically when you have such active late winter, early spring, you tend to buy the one thing you need going into the growing season, which is water. And the only place where that's not happening right now is in the southern plains of the United States. I look back in Garden City, Kansas. The last time they saw more than an inch of precip in one day was back on July 27th. But after that, they got a half inch on February 27th, and they flatlined ever since. So we just, this is just a case where the country is really split up on who's got the moisture and who doesn't, and nobody's able to work because of the extremities there.
Well, Eric, how about South America? What is the latest there? How is safrita corn planting going? I know we've had some delays with soybean harvest in Brazil and safrita corn planting. Catch us up on what you're seeing in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, well, let's start in Argentina. I mean, you remember 2012 here in the States, right? It was bone dry June, July, August, and then all of a sudden in September it just started to rain, and everyone's like, "Well, thanks," but that was 3 months too late. That's what's going on in Argentina this week. There might be up to 4 inches of extra rain compared to normal hitting Argentina, and it's not going to do anything, I think, to really revive numbers and change. In fact, it might cause more problems than doing any good. Then central Brazil and southern Brazil, except for Rio Grande do Sul, all those areas have been in flood, and now they've got a good long stretch of drier weather, which means they're going to finally get the harvest done of soybeans and get safrinha planted there. Mato Grosso, which is about 30-35% of the total crop area in production of Brazil, they were a bit delayed getting soybeans out. Still huge production numbers. Safrinha's in, and it's getting rained on like mad. So there's people there are just like, we're going to bust every bin we've got. So there's a lot of very positive vibes. But if you go across the Indian Ocean, or go across the Pacific, whatever, go across the Pacific over toward Australia, they're getting smoked out with heat this week. There's some major just anomalous weather across the planet right now. As we switch out of this line, we're done with La Nina. We're now switching into El Nino. We may get there sooner than I had thought we were going to get there. That's going to be top of mind for me as we go forward.
Well, a lot of things to watch, and folks can sign up for Eric's daily weather newsletter on our website, markettalkag.com. Eric Snodgrass of Nutrien, always good to catch up with you, sir. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.